In this episode of OG55, we are speculating all about where in the world is Pandora going to go at DCA. Now with the red car trolley situation, things are starting to come into perspective a little bit. Welcome to the Black Shirt Club, everybody, on this episode of OG55. Welcome aboard, everybody, to another episode of OG55. I got my partner in crime, my brother, my fellow Italian, Mr. George, the Italiano, back from vacay. George, it's always good to have you back, brother.
Thanks for having me back on, bro. Yeah, it's always a good time doing these shows with you, and especially now with I see you had your pinky out in California fashion there.
There we go. Yeah, exactly. Pinky's out, man. Pinky's out. You know what I'm saying? That's how we do it over here with the special access. You can let everybody home know where they can find you on social media, sir.
Absolutely. You could find me on social media on X, formerly known as Twitter, at Disney George. You could also find me on Instagram under the Disney Italiano. And of course, you can find me right here on my home base at Orange Grove 55 with Citrus Corner with all that sweet, juicy, but sometimes sticky Disney news and info.
See, I learned this when having those brunches with Dana Walden. You know what I'm saying? We go to these fancy places, you know, like in Beverly Hills and stuff. You got to have that pinky out, bro. You know what I'm saying? You know, when you're drinking your sparkling water with a slice of lemon in it, you know?
Yeah. you got to even do it with the can.
You got even with the can. Exactly. Keep it classy. Got to keep it classy. But Italiano, let's talk about this. Let's talk about Avatar. This is crazy. So we did a video recently with, we did one with Theme Park Wizard and Conductor. We also did one with Zach from Boardwalk Times, right? Mm-hmm. Red car trolley now is the elephant in the room in a lot of ways, right? So Disney announced, they made it official. Early 2025, they're going to get rid of, they said that the red car trolley is closing down. Now, I believe it was cited that because they have to demolish the trolley barn in order to make way for these two Avengers attractions, and Avengers Infinity Defense and the Stark Flight Lab, right? Now, here's the thing. We talked about it a little bit, but hey, not everyone watches every video. In my opinion, I'll bring up the map here because we'll talk about this. In my opinion, let's get over. This is the trolley barn, by the way, right here. Okay, it's not a big building. That's the thing. It's not a significant building. They could have moved this. Okay,
right.
Absolutely could have moved this, but this is like that Avengers headquarters shop, and this is Mission Breakout, and all of this back here is going to be both of these attractions. Now they're going to bulldoze this because they have to make way for the attractions. Okay, now here's my theory, Italiano, and I'm curious what you say about it, but this is the trolley barn is a symptom of a bigger thing. Okay. Mm-hmm. Yes, they technically have to get rid of the trolley barn to make way for the Avengers ride. Yes, that is technically true. But I think the bigger thing is that this trolley is going away because Hollywoodland is going away. It's looking more and more likely that this whole land will become Pandora, or a huge chunk of it. And if a big chunk of it becomes Pandora, well, what's the point of having a trolley? You can't have a trolley go through Pandora. That makes no sense. Correct. So when they announced this yesterday, that this trolley was going away, for me, that was enough evidence that this is the spot they landed on in terms of where they're going to put Pandora. What say you, sir? What do you think? You think it's going to go into Hollywoodland, or you think it's still open? You think?
It's leaning more towards that way. It really is, and I think everybody in the fandom, everybody online, when they made this announcement for the red car trolley, even though Disney said this is for you know, the Avengers Campus, everybody leaned more towards Pandora. Like if you bring up the red car trolley to somebody right now, they'll say, "Oh yeah, it's because it's for Pandora." No one, even though subconsciously that Disney could say, "Oh, this is strictly for Avengers Campus," which obviously it is. It's because it's in the backstage area where they're going to expand the campus out for the two new attractions that are going there. But you're right. It's basically just a barn. It's a small facility that holds the trolleys in there, that they could easily move that into another location backstage. And I think that they're basically killing two birds with one stone. That they are eventually doing this because of Avengers Campus, but also it will help with the process to get Hollywoodland basically out and Pandora in. Now, again, I'm looking at this map right now, and I'm still really trying to envision Avatar in this space, because it is a very awkward, kind of quirky shaped area. And for the amount of scope that this land is going to be. Now, again, Disney can do anything. You knock out a few buildings, you open it up, it could look completely different. I'm only going by based off of what it is shown now, with all the buildings and the facades and the dare I say it, the Hyperion Theater, what have you. They didn't even expand back to the bus loading area yet. So that's a big chunk of land that they're going to be utilizing as well.
Yeah. See, and that's the thing. It's deceiving because it, like, at face value, it doesn't look like a lot of room, but it really is. Like, if you were to get rid of, let's just say you were to get rid of the whole thing, all this cluster of buildings right here, these two buildings right here, which the animation building, which is right here, is a massive structure. I mean, this alone could house an attraction easily. But you get rid of these, you get rid of this, you get rid of all of these, including the Hyperion and the queue area. This area right here is significant. This is significant, right? And that's not even including, you almost double the size when you dip into the bus load area that they now have access to thanks to Disneyland Forward. It's a lot of room. I think they have the room, because I think, if I'm not mistaken, Pandora in Animal Kingdom is like 11 or 12 acres, right? We did the math on this one, and I think it was like 9 or 10. Right? Yeah. You're pretty much all basically the same size as the one in Animal Kingdom. My issue isn't so much fitting it, because acreage wise, I think they have the room. My issue is, how do you go from Buena Vista Street right here, go down this street, and boom, there's Pandora. That's my big concern.
That's my concern as well. How do you transition the storyline from a street that is basically part of real life culture? When you have even like the Carthay Circle, that was a theater that existed, especially in Walt Disney's time, where they premiered Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. It takes you back into the era of the 1920s and the 1930s, when Walt first came to California to pursue his dream. And then you're going to go down a street, and then, you just happen to osmosisly, that's not even a word, but osmosisly, I'll just use it.
Hey, I see what you meant. It's cool, what I'm saying?
To walk into Pandora. It doesn't make any sense. And especially too, I'm wondering what the transition is going to be. Are they going to utilize the long stretch, you're going to enter into Pandora? Because if they do decide to, just to say, take out the Hyperion Theater for an expansion of Pandora, okay, well, that's on the right side as you're walking down the street, where a lot of everyone is speculating that the entranceway into Pandora is going to be where the in-between kind of walkway where Mickey's PhilharMagic is and Schmoozies.
Right.
So if that's the entranceway into Pandora, then how are you still incorporating where the Hyperion Theater is that's out of the entranceway?
Yes. Well, you can enter here. So this is where you would enter in through, right? Right through here. Right. You can enter in here, but then once you're in here, you have access to all this space in here.
So basically, do you think the second portion of that street would be blocked off? So they would kind of like block it off to where the entranceway would eventually be. So that way, it's not like, because they don't want you to see into Pandora before you actually enter in through Pandora.
Well, and that's what I'm wondering too, because. Okay, Hollywood Boulevard. See, That's the weird thing, because to go from Hollywood Boulevard and then you go into Pandora is really strange. So I'm wondering if maybe they retheme Hollywood Boulevard to like an army facility or something, and then you have like these army, kind of like the Cars Land, the sergeant. I don't know the guy's name. Dang it, I'm drawing a blank.
I think it's Sarge.
Sarge, yeah, Sarge, and it's like that army kind of like almost like it looks like a Soren building, like it's like metal. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
If you kind of create like the lead up into this Pandora land, you kind of like redress these Hollywood buildings into like more like an army military base or something, then you kind of ease your transition from the urban cityscape of Buena Vista Street into this like kind of like this military base, and then you go into Pandora. That might work, and that might be what they're doing here, where Hollywood in general will be gone. The theme will be gone completely. But this Hollywood Boulevard street in the lead up to Pandora might be some military facility that kind of sets the stage and the tone for Pandora as you move forward, you know?
See, that would make sense, because right now the land is basically like a T shape. You know, you basically have like the long stem, which is the walkway.
Right, the Hollywood Boulevard.
And then you have where at the end of it, you have where the Hyperion is that runs all the way into the backlot area, which basically makes it like a horizontal kind of like a cross. So it's basically, it's like T-shaped. So that's where, but again, we're also leaving out where the busload area is. So like when you add that in there, that's going to be a significant big chunk of land.
Oh, it's huge, because this is the current backlot, basically the meat and potatoes here, right here. But the backlot adds it almost doubles the space. I mean, it's a significant area, you know? So
now, what do you think is the fate for Mickey's PhilharMagic?
I don't know. I mean, do they get rid of it? Does that whole entranceway become some sort of military thing to lead you into that? That's kind of what I'm hoping, to kind of make it make sense. I mean, if you keep it PhilharMagic, that's kind of weird, right?
Yeah. Especially if you change all the facades, that is going to lead up to Pandora. But yeah, you're going to have just like Mickey's PhilharMagic just sitting there, like in between everything.
It's weird. And so I'm kind of bullish on them keeping Hollywood Boulevard, because then they can keep the restaurants, like the hot dog place and all that, just retheme it to some military thing, right? And then so you don't lose the food stuff, which is money for them. And then the main Pandora will be back here where Monsters is, and the Hyperion. Oh, sorry. And even this busload unload area. So that's kind of where I'm at with it, like my headspace. I think Hollywood as a theme will be completely gone. But here's the other thing. And we talked about this with Theme Park Wizard, and Wizard was saying he thinks that DCA is going to get a name change. And I've been hearing that a lot in the community. Like, a lot of people are speculating DCA is going to get a name change.
They're saying in the next few months.
That's what we're hearing on Twitter. Yeah. I mean, if that's the case, I mean, do you think that's the case, or do you think it's going to stay California Adventure?
I mean, it wouldn't surprise me. I'll say that. I don't know how accurate, because once someone starts the conversation, it goes wildly, it moves like wildfires. No pun intended, no offense to the state of California.
The rumor mill really does kind of,
it stretches. Yes. And but if that is true, it wouldn't surprise me one bit, especially the direction that it seems like they're going with DCA. It almost seems like it's basically DCA 3.0 at this point. I think
it's a huge change. You're right. It is a DCA, I think 3.0 or whatever version
or
we're
3.5. Yeah, whatever we're on. DCA has gone through so many different upgrades throughout the year.
It has. Now, let's say, for example, let's just say for hypothetical and conversation's sake, they changed the name to Disney Cinematic Adventure, right?
Right.
So you keep the DCA, which I think is great, and you change the theme. Now it's no longer about California; it's about cinema and IP, and that's really the meat and potatoes. That's what Disney wants, right?
Right.
You really open the door to unlimited possibilities with that. Now Avatar makes sense; it totally makes sense in this park. But even the Simba lot, if we're going to go over to the Simba lot with its 25, 30-ish acres, You can do anything. If you change the theme of this park to cinema or IP, basically, and turn it into Disney's Islands of Adventure, basically, or whatever, you can put, technically, theoretically, you could put a Villain's Land in Simba Lot. You could put Fantasy Springs in the Simba Lot, and it would make sense in this new version of DCA.
It really would. And if all this speculation is true, that Avatar is meant to be in Hollywoodland, it really makes me wonder what other things Disney has in mind to put into that Simba lot. Because as we mentioned before, that's about like 20-25 acres added on to an already, 70-75 acre park.
Right. Yeah, I think it's a little more if you add like the Grand Cali, but I don't ever add the Grand Cali. Right. So yeah, it's about 70-75 acres. Yeah.
So if what we were all thinking that Avatar would go into the Simba lot, because there's a lot of room for them to play with and kind of get creative, but if they can manage it to go into Hollywoodland, then honestly I can't even really imagine what they could have in mind for that Simba lot.
I can't either. And that's the thing. It all hinges upon whether or not they're going to change the theme. Because here's the thing too, right? What were we talking about with Frozen? That when we talked about Frozen here on the channel, we talked about it going into the Stitch parking lot, Lilo and Stitch parking lot for Disneyland, right? Because that makes sense. Frozen, Disneyland, okay. But the big issue that we had with Frozen over there was it felt like very redundant having a Frozen land and a fantasy land. Like it feels like Frozen, if it's going to be at Disneyland, should be in Fantasyland. It just makes the most sense. It feels like there's a redundancy there when it's separate thing. But if we have Disney Cinematic Adventure, that changes all the math, doesn't it?
It really does, because you
can put it in DCA.
Because you have all this land, but it somewhat cripples Disney, because if it has to be something based off of California, then their decisions are kind of limited, because it has to tie into the state of California, sort of, in that sense. But
yeah, at least a loose connection, you know what I'm saying? A loose connection. And I'm usually okay with the loose connections. I know a lot of fans get all upset over it and like, oh my gosh. Look, Route 66, close enough for me, bro. Like, I don't need all this crazy California, like, just try and I'm fine. But Pandora, it's a stretch, you know what I'm saying? But you're right, though, George. If they get rid of California, you make it Cinemagic Adventure or Cinematic Adventure or whatever, you open up, you can put Peter Pan in here. You can do whatever you want in here,
anything. The sky's the limit. And again, if they did do that, if they put Frozen, Zootopia, Tangled, as you had mentioned, Peter Pan, people are going to say, okay, well, what does that have to do with California?
Right, and it doesn't. So you change the name. You can do a Moana. I know Disney loves Moana. I mean, we all love Moana. I mean, who doesn't? But if you change the theme to a cinema park, you can have in the Simba lot a giant Polynesian area for Moana. Mm-hmm. So if I'm Disney and I'm looking at that, and you're talking about a resort that's very limited in space. You're very limited in space. So yes, we have this acreage to work with now. But why tie your hands with the California thing when you can totally break free and you can go balls to the wall, as you say, George, and put Moana or Frozen or just about anything, Villain's Land, anything in this park then? It kind of makes sense, dude. Will they do it? I don't know. Now, here's the thing. If they do it, you call it Disney Cinema Adventure or Cinematic Adventure or something like that. Please don't give us this Adventure World stuff.
Yeah. Like,
please
do something new, do something original. Don't tie us into the second Disneyland Paris park.
You might as well call it Wally World if you're going to do that.
Yeah.
It just,
because honestly, Adventure World, honestly, what that reminds me of is the park that
Wally World
was that, and the park that was used in Beverly Hills Cop 3.
Oh, that's funny. No.
But which honestly, great movies. Beverly Hills Cop and the vacation movies. But I'm going off the deep end here. But anyway, what was I saying? Oh, so for me, I feel like Avatar is going to pave the way for what is to become of DCA. here's my thing. I don't know if they're going to mention it in the next few months. They may, but I feel like that they may not do it right now because the park isn't changing its identity quite yet.
Yeah.
By the time Avatar is done, we're looking at like 5 or 6 years. And then Disney has to go into the second phase for Disneyland Forward. That's part of the 1.9 billion that we were discussing with Wizard and Conductor. That part of the phase 2, so to speak, of the second half of the 10 years, that's going to be the telling point, depending on what is going to go into the Simba parking lot. I think that's probably when they would make the name change. I'm thinking it's possible that the name change might come with the opening of Avatar, but not right now.
Yes, that's what I was saying too. It makes sense to sort of like when you open Avatar, that's like the reboot, and that's like the big, like kind of like what they did honestly with 2012. It was kind of a rebirth of the park in a lot of ways. I could see the opening of Pandora being that same kind of rebirth, and that's when you open it up as a new park with a new name. You know what I'm saying? And then when you go into the next phase, the next 5 years, then you have a world of possibility. Then you dip into the Simba lot, and you can do Moana or Frozen or Peter Pan or whatever you want, villains, whatever you want to do. Zootopia, it all makes sense now. It's an IP park.
I'm telling you, this park has gone under the knife more than Pamela Anderson.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and this is actually, I think this would be the last and final time, because I think this is a broad enough thing. If they do the cinematic adventure route, you can put anything in here. You don't really need to reevaluate the theme anymore. Now, I bring up this because a lot of people are still questioning Grizzly. Now, we'll talk about with Avatar, then we'll talk about it with if DCA gets a potential theme change. But with Avatar, is there any chance it goes in here, in your opinion?
I don't see it. I really don't. I feel like even though this is a nice chunk of land, it still feels even more landlocked than Hollywoodland.
Yeah, well, and here's the thing with this, right? I feel like in order to really do Avatar here, and it's not going to ever, like, honestly, the art looks nothing like Grizzly Peak. I mean, that weird onion blossom rock work. I mean, you have to basically do the whole thing from scratch anyway. So to bulldoze this giant mountain is going to cost them a fortune, dude. Yeah, they're not going to do that. They're not going to, and James Cameron isn't going to want them to just kind of like do an overlay, and that's not what we're getting. We already know we're getting this elaborate dark ride boat thing, so I think the chances of it going into Grizzly are next to zero at this point, and I'm glad. I like Grizzly, but here's the thing, George. If they change the theme of the park to Disney Cinematic Adventure, I'm just going to say that name just for the sake of like it's a theory basically. What do you do with this though? This doesn't really have an IP, so you have to change it or overlay it or something, right?
I mean, yeah. I mean, I could definitely see them keeping the Rapids kind of ride system. I would still prefer them to throw in the Country Bears in there, even if it's just a couple audio animatronics in the queue line and maybe even at the end of the ride, and you just kind of get the music, throughout the ride. At least you're throwing in the IP. I don't know if Disney's going to do that. I mean, they still have the Big Owl kind of carved statue out over by the Disney Vacation Club area in that land. But another interesting take on this is too, with this piece of land, it already has the incorporation of water,
right?
Where with Hollywoodland, now, as I said, Disney would probably still do it anyway, but they're going to have to create another kind of water flowing system, because all these waterways, and actually I learned this from our good friend Bricky, all the water waves are interconnected with one another, and in some odd shape or form, when you have a land that is basically engulfed with water, which obviously Avatar is going to, because it's going to be based off of the way of water, they're going to have to create a whole nother watering system to attach into all of this that's already interconnected within the park.
It's work. It's work.
That's going to be very interesting.
Yeah, no, it's work for sure. It's absolute work for sure. So I don't know. I mean, this is crazy. And the red car trolley thing, to kind of circle back to that, is sort of like, for me personally, and again, it's speculation, we're guessing here basically, but they're educated guesses, right? That red car trolley announcement, I even called you when it happened.
Yeah.
It's going in Hollywoodland. It's so obvious that's where it's going now. They're getting rid of that trolley because that's where it's going. There's not going to be any trolley track left. So why have the barn?
Well, and the other thing is too, and speaking of Grizzly Peak, the other reason why this more so has no potential of going in there. Look what's right next to it.
What? Oh, the Grand Californian.
The Grand Californian.
Yeah.
It's very easy that they could, retheme the hotel, but I don't think Disney's gonna touch the Grand Californian because it is such an upscale kind of hotel, sort of like how the Grand Floridian is to Walt Disney World. And I don't know. I just can't foresee them utilizing that for Pandora. I don't.
Yeah, not me neither. And I think even if DCA changes its name to a cinema park or a cinematic park, I think the Grand Cali will still keep the Grand Cali name. Yeah. I don't think they're going to make it like a movie hotel or something.
No, I don't either.
I think they're going to leave it the way it is. I mean, look, you have the Grand Floridian in Florida, you have the Grand Cali out here. It's fine, Yeah. It's fine. So
now what say you as far as the monorail?
Okay, let's go back over to that side. Give me just a second, brother. Because we do have a monorail problem. So as you can see here, right here, along here, the monorail goes right in front of Monsters, Inc. It goes through the entranceway, and it goes right past Soarin' Over the World or over California, depending on what time of year you're going, right? It's tough. Didn't Bricky do a video on this? I thought he did a video on the monorail.
He did mention in the sense that you could put up rock work and kind of hide the track, so to speak, where you have the monorail going through a tunnel, but to the people down below, the monorail would already be going through the rock work above, so people won't see like the eye view of the monorail passing them as they're going through Pandora. But they would still have to reroute they wouldn't have to touch the beams, but they would have to reroute the track to move around it, especially if they're going to utilize the bus loading area.
Yeah, they're going to have to reroute it. They're probably going to have to move it a little bit. I know they did some moving with the monorails for DCA. When they put DCA in, I don't remember which parts exactly, but it's not unprecedented for them to move. I think they're probably going to have this area right here, this stretch. They're probably going to have to move it maybe up a little bit or something.
Mm-hmm.
Again, I'm not an engineer, so I don't know how much room and how much space they need for these turns and all that stuff. But I'm assuming that's definitely part of the equation. Or they can just do what Bricky was saying, where they just kind of enclose it in rock work, cover it up, and you can't see it.
That is true.
So that's another option, but I don't know. I mean, it's a major issue. There's a lot of major issues with a lot of this stuff. And here's the other thing too, and it's connected to this Pandora thing. But if you take Hollywoodland and turn it into Pandora, what happens to Avengers Campus expansion? Because you're kind of sucking up all the space. Like, I mean, I'm assuming like most of Hollywoodland would go for Avatar, but maybe not. Maybe it's only this part right here and the bus load, right?
It's true.
So
the other half might go for Avengers Campus, because essentially Hollywoodland was supposed to be transformed into Avengers, from the first attempt with the Eastern Gateway.
So if you were to do that, let's just say that this whole part, everything here goes to Pandora, and then the Disney Junior building and the massive animation building goes to it kind of gets folded into
See, that would
Avengers
make more
Campus.
sense.
That might be the move because Marvel's a massive property. They're going to want to have some expansion room for this.
And where do you see the Hyperion? Do you think they split the land?
They could split the land. There's no rule that it's all or nothing. Yeah, they could maybe split it. They might split the land. Maybe this Q area might go to Avengers Campus, and maybe the bulk of this might go to Pandora. Pandora's going to need more room. Let's just be honest. It's going to need more room in space because of the rock work and the ambition involved with this thing. And James Cameron ain't going to put up with some half-ass thing. I'm telling you that right now. No. So I wouldn't be surprised if they are going to rename this park. I wouldn't be surprised if James Cameron is part of that conversation.
And he has to be, definitely.
Absolutely. I wouldn't be surprised if he said something. I wouldn't be surprised if James Cameron told Bob Iger and Bruce Vaughan, hey, you know what? If we're going to put this Pandora in DCA, I want a complete reimagining of this park and its theme. So that wouldn't surprise me. He's got enough pull over there that wouldn't shock me at all. But yeah, it's possible with Hollywoodland. I think a kind of a dual use thing might be in order here. It's a lot of land, maybe half of it, or at least some of it, the animation building, and this one here might be Marvel. I'm kind of leaning in that direction just because I just feel like they're going to want more Marvel in there. Yeah. There's so much potential with it. So it's crazy. I can't even believe we're here doing this. And then we're doing this. DCA is getting all kinds of love, dude. I'm here for it. Oh, and here's the other thing I really want to talk about, bro. So a lot of people, and I love it. This is fantastic. I am a huge fan of the red car trolley. Fan of the red car trolley, and I've loved it since it opened. Okay, so I was really upset during the pandemic that this thing might not come back. This red car trolley might not return. Right, that was kind of the rumor. It was kind of like, are they going to bring it back? Years have gone by now, and now we're in a place where now it's actually gone, and people are like asking me like, "Oh, gee, you must be really upset. Like, they're removing your red car trolley." Honestly, I don't know what it is, but I think I have a theory as to why. I'm not really that upset. And there's two reasons why I think I'm not upset. Number one, I think we all have kind of seen this coming for a while. Right. Like the pandemic and everything was sort of, it was a close call. Let's be honest. We all thought that was when it was going to go, and it came back and it was great. But mentally, I've been personally kind of prepping myself for the day that it's going to go away. It's an operational thing. It costs Disney money to operate it with the cast members and everything, the maintenance, and it doesn't really give them much return. Let's be honest. But aside from that, the reason why I'm not really mad is because we're getting a lot of stuff. Like DCA is getting a huge investment here. We're getting a huge Pandora, you guys, in DCA. One of Imagineering's best things that they've ever done, in my opinion, which is Pandora, is coming to DCA. Of all the parks, one of the most immersive theme lands that Disney has ever created, a version of that is coming to DCA. We're getting 2 new Avengers rides, and we're getting a brand new family dark ride with Coco. Mm-hmm. As much as I'm sad about the red car trolley, and I love it. I love the red car trolley. I wish if there was a way we could save it, I would definitely be on board with that. But if we're going to lose the red car and we're gaining Pandora, 2 new rides in Avengers Campus, a Pirates of the Caribbean style dark ride, I don't know. For me personally, it's hard to be pissed. It's hard to be mad. What say you, Italian?
I think if it was just them coming out and saying, you know what, we're getting rid of the red car trolley, and they had no purpose as to why they were removing it in the first place, then you would be pissed off. If there was no reasoning behind the removal, they're just like, you know what, we're cost cutting again. We're getting rid of the red car trolley just because, we're getting rid of small things here or there. Then you're not justifying the fact of, it's like, okay, well, you're basically just getting rid of something just because, But
you're just being cheap at that point.
Exactly.
But like, clearly that's not what's happening here. It's clearly a reworking of the park, and maybe even a retheme. And you're changing you're changing the park significantly.
The dynamic of the park is going to be completely different than what we see what we see as of now when we
Well,
walk through DCA.
Oh, completely. And here's the thing. We talked a lot about DCA 2.0 and it being $1 billion to refresh or reimagine that park. I mean, you're looking at well over $1 billion right now with what they're doing. I mean, it cost what was the price tag on Galaxy's Edge? Wasn't it $1 billion? I could have sworn
it was around $1 billion. Yeah.
Okay, so I can't imagine this Pandora is going to be much cheaper than that. And then that's on top of the 2 e-tickets not 2 e-tickets, but 2 Avengers rides and the Coco thing. It's well north of $1 billion easily.
Yeah.
We're getting another DCA 2.0 essentially.
And that would make sense because if it's about, just say $1 billion for Avatar, for Coco, for the 2 Avengers, let's just say, for the sake of it, let's just say $1 billion. Well, that's half of what Disney had promised the city of Anaheim to spend over the next 10 years.
Over the next 10 years.
So if you do $1 billion every 5 years, you're hitting your quota.
You're hitting your quota. And so, and that Josh DiMauro promise at the expo, it kind of was for 2 purposes then in a lot of ways. It was telling the city, we're going to meet the deadline, right? Because we're going to get this done in 5 years. It was also telegraphing that to the fans who were concerned about timelines.
Correct.
So he was talking to the city and the fandom. That's why I think the Josh DiMauro presentation, the Parks panel, was an absolute masterclass in regards to how to do a panel like this, because he checked every single box and he even went above and beyond that.
He did.
And this is coming from someone, I'm telling you, go back and watch our videos. We were very critical on Josh DiMauro. We have been. I've even said, I don't even think he should be the CEO. Like, I'm not a Josh DiMauro apologist, but when the guy does a win, he has a fucking win. The Parks panel was a massive success. You can be upset about the Rivers of America. You can be upset about the red car trolley. You can be upset about this stuff. But at the end of the day, he hit a home run. He went above and beyond what we thought he was going to announce. No one expected a new nighttime parade in Walt Disney World. No one expected a Coco Dark right here in California. Like, he went way beyond what was expected. No one expected 4 cruise ships being announced.
I sure didn't.
I didn't expect any of this. I didn't even expect Villains Land, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
I even thought that was kind of a long shot. It'd be cool. But when he did the whole one more thing, Villains Land, I almost lost my shit, dude.
Yeah, we both did. Definitely. It was like, but it's also to the fact that 1.9 billion is what they agreed upon with the city of Anaheim, but also if they attach another, I believe it's $600 million to that, which would bring it to 2.5 billion, then they wouldn't have to pay a I guess like a fee
or fine.
Or something.
Yeah. So they're shooting for that. Yeah. So we'll see, brother. It's crazy. It's absolutely crazy. So it's great. This is the stuff I love, when it comes to this park stuff. It's kind of theorizing, speculating. We got these great announcements. Now we can kind of figure out where it's going, what it's going to entail. So it's really fun. But the Italiano, it's always good having you back, brother. If you could let everybody at home know where they could find you on social media, sir.
Absolutely. You can find me on X, formerly known as Twitter, at Disney George. You could also find me on Instagram under the Disney Italiano. And of course, you can find me right here on my home base at Orange Grove 55 with Citrus Corner, with all that sweet, juicy, but sometimes sticky Disney news and info.
Stick it. There we go. Comment down below with all your thoughts on everything we discussed today, whether it be Pandora, where is it going in DCA? Is DCA going to get a theme change? It's kind of looking like it might. Paris, their secondary park got a theme change, a name change. Is it possible we see something like that out here in California to kind of open the floodgates for the IP machine? Right? It wouldn't shock me, guys. It really wouldn't shock me. But what are your thoughts on it? We'd love to hear from you. Thank you so much for watching and supporting OG55. Also do want to say we do have a membership program here on the channel with exclusive content to members and content that is that gets released early to members as well. So make sure you can check that out if it's something you're interested in. We would appreciate you becoming a member, because there's a lot of perks in regards to that. But thank you so much for watching this episode of OG55, and until the next time.